Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 7:30. Could you be standing for prayers, please, in future?
Heavenly Father, we are gathered together this evening as our local council, intent on improving the lives of those who live in our community. As our schools reopen to care for the education of our children and grandchildren, we think of the beginners, those just starting, those who are progressing to higher and further education, and those looking for new experiences after full-time education. And we wish them well. We wish them to know our hearts' hopes for their future good in an ever-changing world. We also give thoughts tonight to those who have responsibility for our country and for its relationship with other parts of the world, particularly Europe. For those who will be affected the most by any change, farmers, particularly fruit farmers, our lorry drivers with business abroad, our building industry suffering shortages in skilled workers, our hospitals and care homes lacking support workers. And finally, we think of this parish council, a mere tiddler in this vast ocean, and hope we have the good sense to act responsibly in dealing with all our business. For Christ's sake, and in his name. Amen.
No apologies. Yeah. Okay, we're going to do the allotment prizes first. So, okay, the first one is for Mr. Moore.
Yeah.
Would you like to come up? Mr. Riss is right, please. Well done. I'll give you the important part, shall I?
Thank you.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you. Well done. And the next one, Mr. Savage. Mr. Savage is the overall winner. Well done.
Yeah, we want it back next year.
Would you like to take the box? To, keep
We bought this, you know. It's ours. You don't need us anymore, do you?
No, you're fine. Thank you very much for coming. Well done.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right. Thank you.
Right, good night.
Thank you.
Right, declarations of interest, please. Councillor Radstead.
Chapel Town Chair, and later on there'll be a discussion where Joel and Brady did some quotes and so on as well, please.
Councillor Gourlay.
I declare an interest in the tender process for the sale of the Lays allotments, as I have a friend who probably bid if that sale takes place. However, I intend to talk later about the process by which the allotment status was removed from the Lays land, as I feel as I can discuss this with impartiality.
Councillor Sizeland.
My wife is a substitute member on IP Development Control and also Lays allotments as an adjoining landowner.
Councillor
I've got a friend who's interested in Lays lot.
Same thing.
Chair, mostly being a member of the school.
Oh yes.
Thank you.
And then Peter too. Peter as well. Okay, the next item is the option vote for Double Holes and Martinside vacancy. And we've asked, sorry.
Point of order. Can I just clarify which councillors are eligible to vote?
Well, the information we've got is that everybody present tonight will be able to vote unless there's been some predetermination, and it's up to the individual to take that into account. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, doing it in alphabetical order. So, yeah, we need to suspend standing orders, yeah.
I'll propose that we suspend standing orders for this item.
To be taken now.
To be taken now.
Yeah, yeah. So we take it now. Everybody in favour of that? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So, Mrs. Cox. Would you like to give your short presentation then, Mrs. Cox? Would you like to go to the end of the table and just give your 30 seconds to 3 minutes, whatever you'd like? Oh, no.
Sleep. I'd like to stand for the Dove Holes because they haven't had a parish council for a while, and I do think that every community should have. Not true.
They've had a parish council all the time.
But they just not come. Because
I'm
I was told
there are 2 councillors.
Oh right. Well then I take that back. I was told that they haven't had one for a while, so that's why I stood, because I think every area needs to have a representative who can sort of fight for things for them, or even just let them know what decisions are being made. I think I can do this easily. I have experience of council, being a member of council, borough council, a few years ago. And so I understand how things work, and I'm good at communicating, so I think that I can represent them and also feedback to them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cowley next, please.
I'd just like to say thank you very much for allowing me to have a speech on this or talk on this, but I'm retracting my nominations for standing as a parish councillor. Thank you for listening to me in the meetings I briefly, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Phillips, would you like to give us your presentation after 3 minutes, please?
Right, thank you.
I've had a few copies done earlier today of a reference from Stamp It On at Whaley Bridge, if you'd like to pass those around.
If you'd like to carry on.
I'm David Phillips. I was born at Ashbourne, Derbyshire, 11th of July 1948, and I went to Swinscote Church of England Primary School, then on to Ashbourne Grammar School, on to farming, Staffordshire College of Agriculture 1-year course at Roddeston near Penbridge. Passed several proficiency tests there. And then into factory work. Happens at Mayfield, Richard Cooper's at Ashbourne. Van driver up to Buxton where I met my wife Elizabeth. And we had 2 sons, John and Robert, who are in their 40s. I go to the monthly meetings of Doveholes Community Association, and I've lived in Doveholes since December 1986, and I would welcome the chance of working alongside the lady to my right.
As the council Doveholes, you mean, yeah.
Doveholes has many social facilities and some long-standing residents with vast knowledge of Doveholes and Martinside, who have given me brilliant ideas for the transport problem to keep the lorries off the main road. They still go to the weighbridge on Dale Road. Doveholes and Martinside, it's quite a big farming area. My late father, John Phillips, was a farmer at Ellisall, Swinscote, near Ashbourne, which is the place I love to go to visit. And I would do my best, if chosen, to be your candidate for Doveholes and Martinside. I would welcome any help in the job, and I'd do my best.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right, so could I have show of hands for votes for Mrs. Cobb, please?
Just count that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that correct? Yeah.
And for Mr. Phillips, please. Right, so Mrs. Cobb has been co-opted to the Parish Council. So can I thank the other 2 candidates for their very good interviews when we had met informally, and also the presentations tonight, so thank you. If you'd like to make arrangements with Sue, then we can go through all the paperwork.
Okay, that's good.
Right. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
Congratulations. Well, thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm assuming that you don't want me anymore, do you?
Well, if you want to go, then feel free to go. But if you want to stay, then you're very welcome. You can go at any time. Right. The rest of you got to stay. The next item is co-option protest for the Chapel East Ward. I think applications closed last Friday. We've got 2 applicants, so we intend to go through the same process again as we went through for the Doveholes and Martinside vacancy. Councillor Galway.
Can I make a plea that we change the process and make it a bit more open so that members of the public can be involved with the process more?
Well, the process that we are going through is an adaptation of what we had before, and it's been cleared by the monitoring officer, so I see no reason to change it. Councillor Galway.
Just because it's legal doesn't make it good.
Well, I think it worked. I think it worked very well.
Yeah.
Councillor Sires, you can ask the candidates what they thought of the process. Did you feel you had a fair chance of putting your views forward at the informal meeting? Did you find it a reasonable process?
Yeah, it was well presented. You well presented, like in the questions asked. Made you think about why you wanted to do things and stuff like that. As a public body, then to who do you choose and what sort of questions may they ask is irrelevant, I think, really, for what the job you want.
Right.
Can I comment, Chairman?
Yeah,
I thought it was very relevant, and I learned something I didn't know, although I think Carol Cobb was on the Borough Council when I was. and but she was on the planning committee, and I wasn't on the planning committee.
It's got more votes than you, Peter.
But I mean, she brings therefore knowledge of the process, and which will be very, very helpful indeed.
I think Councillor Sizing, you want to
I was not happy with the interviews being held in private. I think it should be open to the public. And I know that Derbyshire Association and like local councillors were very specific that things like that should be held in public. So we went against their advice, and that's why I didn't.
No, that's
No,
not
the
true.
advice is completely
true.
the opposite. The advice we got from the monitoring officer is completely the opposite.
The monitoring officer or
I think the
down.
advice
No,
we
no.
got from DALC is that some people do it completely in private, some people do it completely in public, and then some people do it in any shade in between.
Yes, but they said you should err towards public. That transparency is always king. That's what they said.
But it's down
In
to
a
the
perfect
council.
world.
Councillor Mrs. Batterby and then Councillor Harris.
Perhaps Councillor would explain to us why he thinks public, lots of things in public would be preferable.
I think things should be transparent. As simple as that. We're representing all these people of Chapel and Frith, and they should be able to see what we do and hold us to account, you know, and we shouldn't have anything to be scared of.
I'm scared of anything. They came tonight, I was very happy with the
You
program.
can argue that we therefore ought to have been present when you were chosen man, because everybody wanted to stand. I mean, it goes many, many ways, but I think it would put the ordinary man in the street, usually referred to as the man on the top of a bus going to some banquet or something. The ordinary man in the street would put off by being questioned in front of other people.
Yeah, Councillor Gourlay.
I think when we have discussed this several times, but when we've talked about it, I think there's been some confusion between interviewing for an employee and electing a councillor. I think if we were hiring a member of the ground staff, then it's perfectly reasonable to assume that it is held in private. When we're electing someone...
Electing happens at elections, co-options happens after elections are finished. That's the difference.
We are electing someone for 3.5 years with the full powers of a council.
Well, if you want transparent process, I think Councillor Seisling came through on an uncontested, so there were no votes for it. You didn't come through a particularly transparent process.
Yeah, but I was happy if there had been other people standing, but that's not the same thing. I was prepared to go to public vote and everything.
So are we all.
Yeah, so but the election phase is finished. The advice we got from the monitoring officer that after the election we co-opt, and the process that we proposed, he said, was more than acceptable. So we'll use the same process again. Next item is police matters, and I think you've got the report in front of you, which Councillor Dales and Councillor Bannon are going to speak to. So over to you, gentlemen.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we, as part of the police liaison group, myself and Paddy started to look at the ways that we could improve communication around Chapel and Frith. One of the key areas that we were looking at, and it's some things an ex-police officer was heavily involved in for approximately 10-15 years, was Neighbourhood Watch. And exactly how Neighbourhood Watch worked in the 80s as to where we were now. So we really did stick our toe in the water, and for those that weren't aware of it, who were sitting around today, I apologise, we sort of had a limited time to get the message out. But the good news was that we, in the room next door, we had 38 residents with councillors in attendance. These were not Neighbourhood Watch members, these were residents from across Chapel, Coombs, Shinley, who turned up to just have a look at what we were proposing. And from the outset, I thought that was very positive. I did a short presentation. It was quite interesting that I think 8 people put their hands up to say that they were part of Neighbourhood Watch. But when I asked who was part of an active Neighbourhood Watch, a gentleman sort of nervously put his hand up out of the group, which was what we to a point expected. that we were at that situation where there was neighbourhood watch in some guys within the areas, but as to how it was being utilised, when it was benefiting the community was another matter. Armed with a flip chart and quite a bit of brainstorming, we started to ask the residents what was worrying them, what was their concerns. We put it into several, we put it into issues, we put it into priorities, and we put it into opportunities. I'm not going to go through every single thing that's on here because we'd be here all night. Has everyone seen, you've all got a copy from the community? I've put one out on every seat, so I hope you've got that to have a look at. There were some real interesting things that were coming out, some that we expected. There was a lot of concern about drugs and canisters in the park and lighting in the park. Concerns about the resourcing of policing in the town. And when I say policing, I mean that in the context of the safer neighbourhood teams, PCSOs, etc. and exactly what was happening with that. There was a lot of new people from the new estate who came with some fantastic enthusiasm and ideas. They really wanted to be engaged with the town, and they saw this neighbourhood watch as something they'd not been involved in before, but they really would like to get involved. And they came up with quite, as you've seen in a minute, quite a few ideas about communication. Communication was massive. People in this town are saying, we really don't know what's going on with crime. One gentleman said, are we to be worried living here? We come here to a lovely area, but we're hearing all these issues, are we to be worried? And I think that's quite significant when you've got people saying that, because we live in a very safe place for visitors, for the community, and for people who work here. We're in a beautiful area of the High Peak, and it's a safe place. But to have people sort of worried, particularly, and as well as the residents who've been here for many, many years, the new people, it was quite a concern. So, all in all, you've read there all of the, you can read there all of the things that we need to do, improving communication. They came up with some fantastic ideas. I know I've got a couple of people here tonight who've already approached me about the potential of using technology to improve the way that we communicate from police to the public and from the public to police. And that's something that myself and Paddy are going to be looking very closely at. One key player was Karen Green. Karen presented herself fantastic on the night. She gave us a real insight into Derbyshire Alert, which I've got to be honest with you, as an ex-police officer and someone here, I didn't know that much about. And so the question about Derbyshire Alert is, what can we do with it? How can we improve that communication link? But people need to know what it is, etc. before. To that end, and I'll jump on, we're going to be looking, and Mr Perkins is working hard for us to get a bigger venue. We're going to use the school. We're going to try and get the headmaster to get involved in this, because there was a lot of issues about young people. So we're going to push the button to the headmaster and see how he responds. And then myself and Paddy are going to look at getting a real good communication about the event that's going to take place. We think now it's going to be probably mid-October before we actually get that event off the ground. It will be, neighbourhood watching will be building on what you've seen in front of you here, and what we're doing. So that's how we intend to do that. You can see the priorities. They came from the issues, and you can see there, the priorities about quarterly meetings for Neighbourhood Watch, information sheets for Neighbourhood Watch, setting up a Neighbourhood Watch app, which one of the residential areas have set up already, their own residential app, which was really interesting to listen about. So, where do we go from there? On the back we see that there's the attendance. You've got an idea of, on page 3, of the people that attended. Unfortunately, that's not fully reflective, in that some people didn't put the names on a register, and a few gave us email addresses, but we didn't have addresses. So there's probably a few addresses there that got missed off. Now, the opportunities for me and Paddy, when we were looking at this, and that's on page 3, just above the addresses, was an opportunity to meet with the Assistant Police Crime Commissioner. That's taken place with myself and Councillor Sizeland, my Peterborough Council, and I'll give you a quick update there on some real good news and opportunities that are going to come our way. Engaging with the local school, the opportunity there I think is a must, and how we develop that, I'm not making any promises yet, but we are going to make a concerted effort to bring them into the fold. I think that's vital. There was a question, I think it was from Councillor Sizeland, about police cadets at one stage and how we can engage with them. So was it yourself or not? Councillor Gore, I can't remember. But one was very interested in what that meant, the police cadet side, so I've got an update that I will give you very quickly about that. As I say, we have a WhatsApp group in the Rose Bay estate, which is really interesting. Karen Green is putting together a much more comprehensive presentation about Derbyshire Alert, because myself and Paddy, having been to this meeting and sitting down and talking about it, thought that was really, really important that the community understand what that can do for us. So, myself and Paddy then attended a meeting. I'm not going to go through all the notes here. I'm going to give you and get Paddy to explain some things that he's done. We've captured all the information, as it says there, onto a flip chart. We have a neighbourhood watch coordinator called a lady called Joy Hall, who works at Ripley, and she is our coordinator. Paddy was going to have a meeting. I think you've got an update on that, Paddy, have you? Yeah, okay.
I spoke to Joy, and Joy is going to give us the listing of all the people who were part of Neighbourhood Watch in the area, which we don't have. Because a certain gentleman, I think it was Nick, tonight,
yeah.
was it you that mentioned about mapping?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what we're going to do is we're going to reflect that on the Neighbourhood Watch scheme. We're going to get a map done of the whole area. First day what we are, will be pinpointed in each area where a coordinator would be. So we have taken that on board, what you said that night.
Yeah, thanks, Paddy. The next one was I was an inspector at Matlock, and I had a sergeant called Mr. Rawlinson, Sergeant Rawlinson, who happens to live now in the Grindleford area. And through Neighbourhood Watch, he's doing some organised patrols, and I'm very interested to see what that means. So I sent Paddy and his trusty taxi over to Grindleford on a day where unfortunately I couldn't get. Paddy, once again, just a very quick briefing on that.
What it basically was I went down to the Peak District Neighbourhood Watch scheme, where they have organised 19 weeks with the police, which involves 2 police officers on overtime and some specials. In total, there was about 14 of us. It was myself and a friend, Dave Green, who volunteered to come with me on this patrol. We did patrol all around the area, ATMs, people kept, parking up cars, watching, and I was actually, my eyes were open to things that we could do in our areas here as, a neighbourhood watch and a community together. I mean, if they can do it there, we can certainly grab our hands there. And we are going to have a meeting with Mr. Rawlings, and the special is in charge to bring us into more about the patrol system, what we can do here for ourselves in Chapel.
What we propose is that the next Neighbourhood Watch will invite these guys up to give us a brief, so that those people who are genuinely interested in Neighbourhood Watch and attend our meeting get first-hand information on it, because it'll be those people that will more than likely be the individuals that will be involved in this sort of activity. I think the other key ones here for you then were I had a meeting with the Assistant Commissioner, as I say, with Councillor Sizeland. Very enlightening. The good news is that we have got a recruitment campaign for police officers. How many we get up here, people, I really don't know. Our slice of the cake is probably going to be relatively small, but there is a slice of the cake coming our way, I've been told. PCSO recruitment's finished, and I've been told by the Commissioner that we're going to be fairly happy with some news relating to PCSOs in this area and the structure that they're going to be adopting. I've met with the head of the new sergeant who's looking after that area, with a PCSO supervisor who's been appointed, and there's some enthusiasm to get our safer neighbour teams. And obviously very much our interest is in this area, get those safer neighbour teams back here. We found a few gaps where the PCSOs have not been working. Unfortunately, Chapel has actually been one of them while she's been concentrating on Fairfield. So these sort of things are what we need to address and make sure that we're getting our small slice of the cake, but nevertheless a slice of the cake which is going to assist us. We cannot, and we've been encouraged that we must always liaise with the safer neighbour teams when we're involved in initiatives, because we can't underestimate the availability of those individuals, that if we're doing something, that their availability, they will do their utmost to make themselves available. They're not just going to keep saying no, they want to get involved. An interesting one was, he said to me, Tony, concentrate on your neighbourhood watches. He says, if you, in this town, in the next 2 years, can develop Neighbourhood Watch, what we will be putting your way, and which is good news, is training and the opportunity to conduct our own speed watch initiatives on the town. They're prepared to put their hand in the pocket, look at training, the equipment, and if we have Neighbourhood Watch and we can show that we're moving in the right direction, that's going to be available to us. So, as you can imagine, there's some enthusiasm from me there to get that up and running. I think really at this stage, yes, specials recruitment is on hold, by the way. Don't expect to see any more specials in the area because there is this big recruitment campaign for the regulars. Police cadets. I did mention that police cadets, we have a police cadet force in Glossop, which is run by volunteers in the Glossop area, but nothing in Chapel, I'm afraid, in this area. So, and there isn't going to be at this stage. And travelling from here to Glossop as a young man to be with the cadets, I don't know if that's will ever be achievable. I think at the moment we decided our focus was Neighbourhood Watch. Get that really going, get everyone committed to it, and then look at what benefits we can derive from it. Please all look out for the date of the next Neighbourhood Watch meeting that we're going to be arranging. I'm hoping it's going to be the school, we'll find out soon, and hopefully everything will take a positive turn for us. So thanks, Chair.
Right, thank you very much, gentlemen, for some excellent work. Very well done.
Thank you.
Right, going to the open forum. Mr. Robert Largan's here, who's the prospective Conservative candidate for the High Peak. I don't know if you'd like to just come forward and introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to sit down or how would you like?
Do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, I can.
Well, just take a seat.
Of course.
Come and join us.
So thank you very much for letting me speak. As we said, I'm Robert Largan. Whenever there is a general election, I'll be the Conservative candidate, whether that's in 2022 or a little bit nearer. I'm here tonight just to really listen, to hear what's going on at the parish council. I'm trying to get my way around every parish in the High Peak, but there are quite a lot of them. And it's really good to see a lot of familiar faces here. I've knocked on quite a few of your doors. If I've not knocked on your door yet, don't worry, your turn is coming. I just wanted to add that the two big things which have been coming up in Chapel on the doorstep, besides the situation down in Westminster, is first of all the situation at Sheffield Road, which I know Councillor Perkins is focused on very heavily, and I'm sure that will be talked about later. And the second one is police and crime. So I just want to say that I'm really positive to hear that from Tony and Paddy, the work that you're doing. Really good to see. Certainly a lot of concerns about it that people are mentioning, but brilliant to hear the progress, and totally agree about making certain Chapel gets its share, a fair slice in the new resources that are coming, and anything that I can do to help in that regard, I certainly will do.
I'll remember that.
Right, thank you very much. Councillor Gourlay.
Through the chair, I mean, I'd like to thank Rob for showing up, and to say what a vast difference between him and Ruth George, who I've never seen here. And on the point that he made about crime in the community, and there are murmurings about bringing Labour's Police and Crime Commissioner here. Now, from my point of view, I don't think he cares about what happens outside Derby and Chesterfield. He came up the last election. I'm sure he'll turn up for a few votes. But why don't we get Angelique, his opponent, Angelique Foster along and see what she has to do about rural crime. We've got an election coming up next year. Now is the time to get some commitments out of them.
Well, we can invite both candidates. In terms of Ruth George spent an awful lot of time here in neighbourhood plans and development. So, yeah,
Every week.
Yeah, she was here virtually every week for more than 2 years. So she may be busier now she's an MP, but she certainly made a massive input into our neighbourhood plan, which we're very lucky to have.
And the Commissioner has been.
Yeah. So we'll invite both candidates. I think we like to be fair. So thank you, Mr. Larkin. Thank you. Right, the next speaker we've got is Mr. John Lomas. If we'd like to come up, please. He's going to speak to us about 2 items. One is to do with HGVs on Charlie Lane, and then about the local district society. So 3 minutes on each.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, my name's John Lomas, and myself and Jane Chapman live at Lower Courses Farm, where Charlie Lane and Crossings Road meet. And I thank you for the opportunity to address the meeting tonight on 2 issues. The first being about a serious problem with HGVs, heavy goods vehicles, which illegally use Charlie Lane. I've given you a paper. I'm not going to go through everything in it, but I'll just give you a few highlights, which I hope will get you the context of it. Charlie Lane is a very popular route for local people, including families. So it's used by kids, people on bikes, people with horses, people with dogs, and they're finding increasing traffic use, as we all well know, in the area. But in particular, they're facing increasing use by HGVs. These same HGVs are also causing serious damage to our property, particularly the garden wall alongside Charlie Lane. So much so that when we come to repair this in the months ahead, it's likely that the County Council will expect us to close the road, Charlie Lane, for up to 2 weeks. And what sort of disruption will that cause? And that's all because HGVs have been up and down, knocking the walls down. If we can stop the HGVs, we'll stop the problems, and then we won't have to keep closing the lane. There's a 7.5 tonne restriction on the whole of Charlie Lane, and the frequent traffic of HGVs is generated mostly by Stephanie Works at Chinley. And most of those are going to Mexichem, the big employer down there. They're illegally using Charlie Lane from April Road to get to Chinley, so they turn off April Road, up Charlie Lane, then down to White to Chinley. So you can imagine what sort of route that is for HGVs. It's impossible for the long HGVs to turn right at the top of Charlie Lane without knocking our wall down. We've had plenty of examples of that. And my paper highlights 2 serious times this year. One in May, when I watched a lorry knock it down, but the company has refused to accept responsibility because I can't prove it. I wasn't quick enough to get a camera out. By the time I had it pulled out into the main road, the wall was in the road, but no, I can't prove it. I called the police, but they weren't interested. The second was on the 8th of July. This time the HGV actually got stuck against our wall. He tried to move backwards and forwards to get out, and in the end he ruptured his diesel tank on the wall and caused a major diesel spill all down Charlie Lane. The police and highways came. Charlie Lane was blocked for 6 hours and Crossings Road was blocked for 3 hours, and this was all afternoon and early evening on a weekday. So you can imagine the chaos that caused. And even though the police attended the incident, they're taking no action against the driver or the company involved. So what is needed to help resolve this? Derbyshire County Council is actively considering the need to improve signs, and I know the County Councillors here tonight is involved in that. But what is the point of improving the signs with all the HGV traffic restrictions if the police don't enforce them? And they're the ones at present who've got the powers. Apparently the Local Government Association is now asking for all local authorities to have the same powers to issue fines to HGV drivers as they do in London. That's the only local authorities at the moment who have those powers. LGA would like all local authorities to have those powers, and that might well help. Most of the operating companies have no consideration for the people adversely affected. They know the police aren't acting, so they're dismissive about the whole situation. Mexichem accept no responsibility whatsoever for the damage these HGVs cause. They issue instructions to the companies but take no other initiative to try and prevent it from happening. As far as they're concerned, they're subcontracting work, it's not their problem. The support we would like from the Parish Council is to support improved signage by the County Council, which we hope is in the pipeline, to press the police about their future their failure to enforce the law and to support new powers being given to local authorities via the LGA to enforce it locally. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much.
Very interesting.
Councillor Gourlay.
Can I propose that we write to the local chief inspector and say that we have heard that HGVs are using this road illegally, and would they mind doing something about it?
Well, I think we should be supporting the 3 points that Mr. Lomas made in terms of supporting the LGA.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'd like to see the LGA do is bring something in which they've got in London, which is people, it's illegal to park on the pavement, where we suffer all around this town with people parking on the pavement. Yeah, right to the police, and also support Councillor Perkins in signage and maybe even some sort of traffic narrowing so HGVs can't get through. Right. Councillor Bann.
I just want to let you know on that one that was stuck on the wall of the diesel corner, I actually rang the Environment Agency and I was horrified and shocked that nobody had reported a diesel spillage on that accident. I was really, I couldn't believe it. Apparently when this accident happened, the police are supposed to put that forward to the environment. They had no record whatsoever. So I'm 100% on that. I think we need to really push this forward.
Councillor Lord.
Can I just ask Mr. Long's a question, just out of curiosity, really? Because I work in Denton, so I don't drive HT, I've got a box on my ring, so I'm not doing any time. My sat nav sends me, doesn't send me down Charlie Lane on the way to work, but it sends me on the way back. And I think that's because of, obviously, the road closures on one way on Hayfield Road and road closures on Sheffield Road. I mean, have you noticed, from your expert vantage, that these incidents have increased?
The amount of traffic up Charlie Lane has increased while Sheffield Road is closed.
Yeah.
But the number of HGV incidents have been going on like this for several years. I don't think they're any worse.
Yeah.
And partly because we're trying to, the Oxford County Council and the company, to advise the companies better, the HGV companies better. So I don't think they're any worse, but it only takes 3 or 4 years and the damage is done.
Councillor Harrison.
Yeah, well, I just want to comment, because yesterday I had one of my great-grandchildren was christened at Chinley Chapel, and I was, sorry, that was Sunday. Yesterday I was outside the graveyard at Chinley Chapel. My wife has her husband buried there, first one. Second husband. First husband, rather. I'm the second. I was waiting there, and two girls on horseback, no more than 11. I found their horses were, incapable of being controlled at that junction out of Chinley Chapel. And some half an hour later, I saw them in Charlie Lane. I had to turn round, by the way, because the road was closed. But they also were wondering what the hell to do. There were 2 girls of about 11, they got horses that were playing up. They wanted a quiet lane to go down. And it wasn't. I mean, it was worse, much worse. Cars were turning round round by the opposite the entrance to the sewage works and so on.
So that's because of
it's signage. Because what happens when you come along from Hayfield and turn right, the county council have said the road ahead is closed. And the road ahead that's closed is the one that goes over the bridge in Chinley and up that way. That's the road that's closed. But if you're in a HGV and coming along as if you want to go to Chinley and through Chinley to Buxworth, the next road you come to is the one, Green Lane, is it, that leads
down to White.
Green Lane that goes towards Buxworth? Yeah. Well, that said closed. So where the hell does the HGV rider go? He tries to get through Whiter probably. But when you read it carefully, it says no entrance to A6. Well, he doesn't want an entrance to the A6, he just wants an entrance to the works he's going to, which are in Buxworth, in bottom of White up there. And he goes on as far as Leadenhall, turns left and goes to his factory. Now I think if you'll better signage, and I'm looking at our county councillor now, if you'll better signage, a lot of this wouldn't happen. But it's, it's just road closed. And for some reason, Charlie Lane's closed tonight.
Chair, I can clarify the closure at the moment. Last Wednesday night, the water main burst. It runs down the fields of outside Charlie Lane and it keeps bursting. It's burst 4 times in the last 5 days.
Is that to do with HGVs?
That's nothing to do
No,
with
nothing to do with
HGVs.
And I realised that one of the people sitting here has a right for a lot of HGVs to come as far as his premises. That's written into the law. And so he's any visitors to his property at the bottom of Charlie Lane there are perfectly legitimate. It's the ones that go beyond that up towards John's Farm.
Yeah. Councillor Dales.
Yeah, obviously this is a community issue. We have a safe and neighbourhood team. By all means we can write to the Chief Inspector, but I think I need to get hold of Karen, as they've encouraged me to do. And I will do that.
If you can do that.
I will do that, but I do agree that we ought to get a letter into the higher level as well, and they can meet each other halfway. But I don't know how much Karen would know about it, or even the sergeant and the supervisor. I think they need to be knowing, because this is not just about when Sheffield Road gets sorted and everything. Charlie Lane is not a lane for people continually going up and down and for people to start choosing to use it as shortcut. Yeah, and I think we should support Mr Lomas on that wholeheartedly, and I will do my best and see what we can get through the Safe and Neighbour team, sir. And they can get up there and start to have a look at what solutions as well.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Gordon and then Councillor Simon.
Do you think it would serve any purpose, through the chair, Mr Lomas, do you think it would serve any purpose if the Parish Council were to write to all the businesses in Stephanie Works, urging them to be better neighbours?
It can't do any harm. Mexicam, as I say, feel that they subcontract and it's not their problem, but as a company which contracts most of the work, it would be helpful if the Parish Council encouraged them to be better neighbours too.
Stephanie Works.
It's Mexicam at Stephanie Works, but there's some smaller companies at Stephanie Works as well. Yeah. But the main cause is those
have you thought about talking to Chinley and Brownside Parish Council too?
I've approached Edith Longden actually.
Yeah. So if it comes from both
for her
advice,
and she is. I said I would report back to her tonight.
Yeah, Councillor Seisman.
Okay. Basically, I want to reinforce what everybody says, which I totally agree with. I've just got my idea pinched of writing to Mexicam. Now, as someone else, but also, so I think we should write and just not just ask them to be better neighbours, but get some sort of response from them to see if we can get some sort of promise or whatever. Now, I don't know this travelling, because obviously I do have a company on Charlie Lane now. All our warehouse employees are trained up with what's called banksmanship, which is the art of manoeuvring vehicles. Now, I mean, I'd be interested to know if the Stephanie Works people do the same, because to me, all companies should have it. You know, they don't. Our employees can do hand signals in 20 languages because they're all the same. Okay, thank you.
Would you like to talk about the Local History Society? Yeah, another 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Chaplain First Local History Group was set up in its present form about 2 years ago, and I advised the Parish Council about it at that time and got quite an encouraging response from Councillor Harrison at that time. Most local history groups base a lot of their work on talks and presentations. We've tried to be a bit different, and our current approach is to try and endeavour to produce some new reports on the history of the parish. We've been working away quietly for the last year or so, and the first 2 of these are nearly ready for release. I've given you a short paper which summarises what each of them covered. The first is on ancient tracts, and the second is on industrial history. So I won't go into the detail, but effectively that will explain to you what these 2 papers will cover. And what we'd like to do is release them in the coming months. They'll each be 20 plus pages long, including photographs. With no sources of income, but we will endeavour to cover the costs of printing ourselves if we can. We'll certainly have to lay out the money ourselves initially. And we would obviously try and sell some copies in the local shops to try and help cover our costs as well. If there was possible support, we could submit more details about our customers to a future meeting to give you some idea what we think the sort of cost figures we're looking at. I mean, for example, one of these reports could cost about 75 pence per copy to print, and we wouldn't be printing big numbers. If we printed 50, it would only cost £75 for 50 copies. If my maths are right, no, it's not right. Actually, there's 50 copies of each. So there's 2 reports. That's 100 reports altogether. That's £75 for that. So, you know, we're not looking at big money, and we hope to get as much as we can back from sales. So that's the main issue. But we hope as well that our papers will promote interest in the history of the parish, particularly amongst new people to the parish as well as local people who've been here years. And these reports may not be perfect, and we'll look forward to feedback on them, and they could be improved in future. Thank you, Councillor Ben.
Just as you were saying that with support and help, I'd like to know we've got a DCC council here. You could ask for some help as well, helping towards some of the cost and that, and putting it together. So, would that be okay with you, Councillor Perkins?
Certainly would.
Thank you.
Councillor Sizeland and Councillor Walters.
Right. Well, I was on this History Society, but I didn't know we'd had any meetings recently. It kept getting cancelled.
We did provide some last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, your farm's only a couple hundred yards from our works.
Yeah.
So we'll have a conversation sometime as well with whatever helps anybody offers as well.
Right.
Okay, John.
I think this will come in with our communications meeting. So I'd like to ask if you could come to our communications meeting and discuss it, because we're looking at the history of Chapel and tracks and walks, and I think this is where we could work together.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to just say what Councillor Hall's going to say. I propose we discuss it at the communications committee.
As far as
If you give me your email
is concerned, we do have charitable organisations in the parish, and we also, the council itself has a fund for giving support. And I think if you apply, John, as a society to that and prove that you've got a bank account or more.
Yeah, you can apply for a grant to us.
And who's chairman and who's secretary and so on. To prove it's a properly organised thing, and it's very worthy of our support. And personally, I think these. I've been looking at what you've written so far about ancient tracks, and it's in line really with lots of the other work we've been doing on the parish in relation to ancient drovers' routes and paths. So I think it's worthy of our support. And, if you apply for a grant, I'm sure it would be carefully considered, and that's the quickest way.
Councillor Bassett.
That's all I was going to say. There are, if you approach Sue, she will explain what there are.
I think grants are available to you. I don't think you may fall into the charity's remit. So.
If Sue could perhaps send you a couple of application forms.
Fine, thank you.
Right, okay, thank you for your contribution. We've got a gentleman who wants to talk to us about badger culling, so...
We've got next, Nigel. Thank you.
Yes, thanks very much to Nigel for inviting me along. I know time's of the essence. My name's Dave Brock, and I campaign against animal cruelty and represent several national animal welfare organisations. You may know that the badger cull is about to begin. It's being rolled out across the country. It's going to come to every county in due course over a period of 25 years. Could result in the death of, it will result in the death, it aims to result in the death of 70% of all badgers, could make them virtually extinct. It's likely to affect Derbyshire this year, parts of Derbyshire, despite the excellent badger vaccination programme. What's it all about? Bovine TB is a disease of the intensive dairy and meat industry. Most badgers are healthy wild animals with strong immune systems. Cattle have passed the disease to the wildlife, so that there is, in some areas, a small reservoir of the disease in wildlife. It might be 15% of badgers in some areas. In Derbyshire, 57 roadkill badgers were tested at the University of Nottingham, and only one was found to have any sign of bovine TB. Yet the government is, therefore, is contradictorily supporting vaccination and supporting killing the same badgers. Very bizarre. Dairy cows suffer lameness and mastitis. It's said between 7 and 10 times as many are sent for slaughter due to these conditions as with bovine TB, but this isn't mentioned by the industry. Infertile cows are killed, others die in accidents, others during calving or when their milk yield drops. The randomised badger cull that lasted 9 years, the so-called Krebs trial, cost £50 million, averaged £4,000 per badger killed, and it concluded that culling can make no meaningful contribution to the reduction in bovine TB, may even make it worse through what's called the perturbation effect, where badgers are killed in one area and potentially unhealthy badgers move in to replace them. There's overwhelming public opposition, especially as there's such a lack of scientific support, but the arrogance of DEFRA and the NFU is quite something. A friend of mine, a chap I know, Dr. Andrew Knight, is a veterinary scientist. He and his colleagues produced a paper on this subject. I handed it to George Eustace on one occasion, and he just said, well, DEFRA, of course, have the best scientists in the world, so I'll look at it, but I won't pay any attention to it. What he says is that, of course, cows are made pregnant through artificial insemination. This depletes the gene pool, results in low herd immunity. The cattle become susceptible to illness. This is compounded by poor quality feed with low vitamin content, overwintering indoors for 6 months, the lungs dry out, and inevitably they pass on lung infections to each other. They're easily spread. There's poor biosecurity. Don't forget those leaflets there, please, before I forget. Poor biosecurity. The test for bovine TB, of course, is infamously... No, you wasn't. Is unreliable in around 20% of cases. This results in infected animals remaining in the herd and spreading it to others. The disease is mainly spread cattle to cattle. It should be emphasised. And tests have been conducted to see how badgers can actually spread it back to cattle, and it's very, very difficult to establish that they can do that. Slurry, muck spreading also scatters the bovine TB bacteria all over the land, and this slurry can be spread miles away from the original farm. The bacteria can remain active for several months. All cattle movements, legal and illegal, are a big problem, especially illegal cattle movements, of which there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands, and very little effective action taken to prevent them. When free shooting badgers, the government bounty hunters are instructed to aim at the shoulder area, not the head of the badger, because it's believed the skull is so hard on the badger it may deflect a bullet. But the consequence of this is that badgers are dying from internal organ failure. They're told to keep...
Just about coming to the end of your time. So
oh gosh, right, we'll try and get zoom to it, thank you. They're meant to be 30 yards from the set. This isn't being observed. The pilot cull in the first year concluded that killing was inhumane and ineffective. This has been ignored. Badgers sometimes take 50 minutes to die. Not one dead badger killed during the cull has been tested for bovine TB. The government knows that the public will be outraged to know that they are killing healthy animals. The cull compels those who want to prevent this injustice from taking risks in trying to prevent it.
Right.
They may even be criminalised. Someone may be killed. Vaccination costs a fraction of killing. It's only about £82 compared to 6,000.
Right, thank you.
And I haven't even mentioned the legal persecution of badgers.
You've had your time.
I've been contacted by Mr. Brock a couple of times about burning of waste at Algreve Farm. I've been happy to take his concerns to the Borough Council, and people like Mr. Brock who walk our footpaths every day of the week are the eyes and ears of the local community.
Can I just ask Mr. Brock, what is it that you propose that the Parish Council does? What's your ask today?
Oh, on the subject of the badger cull?
Yeah.
Oh, join me in opposing it, of course, and let's go out in the field and stop it happening. But, or anything up to that. Thank you. But any questions, of course? Or I covered the whole subject.
Yeah, I think we covered the subject.
And that mad gallop.
Right, thank you.
thanks for concentrating.
Thank you.
Any more questions about the burning of waste?
No, it's been dealt with.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. We'll move on to item 6. MP not here. County Councillor.
Thank you, Chair.
Kins, yeah. I hope you enjoyed your holiday during the last
Very
two
nice.
meetings.
Yes.
So thank you for coming this time. So, yeah.
John, I'd like to give him a card, and if you email me and ask for money, I'll guarantee you'll get it.
Is that applicable to all of us?
Paddy Van is great at spending my money. Reference to Charlie Lane, and the gentleman there, Tony, on about the police being informed. The police have been informed, and I'm talking about Cam Green.
Right.
Derbyshire County Council have put it straight through to the police as well. We have this problem, as we know, a lot of it's down to sat-navs, as well as them ignoring the signs. They are, and I'm with Steve Alcott tomorrow afternoon, they have agreed that they're going to alter all the signs if they haven't already done it. So that's definitely going ahead on Charlie Lane. The next one is Sheffield Road. All these massive rumours going around that this is happening, that's happening, the other's happening. Derbyshire have a website which you should all know about, and it tells you how to go on it. And look what's happening on Sheffield Road. We are running approximately just over a week late, and that's because of the problems that we had in Whaley Bridge when we took staff and equipment from there to Whaley. Other than that, everything is spot on time. All the utilities are now finished. We're putting in the new gullies.
Just on your website, I looked on your website yesterday, and the Sheffield Road site has only got newsletter 1 and 2 on it, and you're currently on 5. So
5, yeah.
Yeah, if you can give them a kick at county.
Oh, well.
Get more up to date.
Yeah.
Councillor Gourlay, did you have a comment to make?
Through the chair, the last time Councillor Perkins came, he stated that there were no plans to close the council yard on Sheffield Road. Does he have anything to add to the reply he gave?
I believe you've had a response after ECC. And no, they're not going to close it. The reason being they won't close it is because it's the only place where they can put sand for gritting between here and Glossop.
Right, did you want to say something else, Isaac?
I just, while on Sheffield Road, the break-in at the council yard, and where the police never turned up to the next day, even though people saw them doing it and kept ringing the police saying, look, they were there hours taking all these diggers and that. I know you were going to make a complaint to the police. I just wondered what the result was.
They was busy. I'm sorry to say, that was it. They've done nothing. They took off the trackers off the 2 machines, so they were professionals, threw them in the yard, and it showed everybody that the machines was not moving.
Right, but the people at Street Crane knew they were taking them and rang the police several times.
I know they did, but they didn't do anything. They didn't turn up until late the following day. By that time it was too late.
Right, okay, would you like to carry on?
Any other questions? Well, any other questions?
Yeah. No, I had a look at the progress yesterday on Sheffield Road, and yeah, I was quite impressed by the 7 new sections of culvert that have gone in on Monday, and it looks like, yeah, you could soon be backfilling and resurfacing.
We're going to backfill very shortly in order to cyclists and pedestrians to use it.
Right. Any other questions?
Just one, Chair. I don't know quite if I'm talking out of turn, and I don't mean to be, but the Ayfield Road issue with the one-way system, and at the moment that's enforced in the way we're doing it. We've had quite a few conversations about what the resolution to that area is with regard to traffic flow. I don't think we really got to anywhere near what's going to be the right thing for the people. I think living at one end you could argue one way and at the other end argue another. But it is definitely something that needs to be addressed for
It will be
for
addressed.
chapel.
They're going to do a full survey and they're going to let the people in that area decide which way they want it. There is a problem, and the problem is the dual carriageway should not be used as a one-way street.
Councillor Lawley.
Sorry, you're going to just remind me, I was going to bring this up with you. When I was speaking to a resident on Walbrook Road, I think, and they asked if Walbrook Road would be one way, because there's problems, especially during school time. I'm sure my family contribute to it, with sort of cars coming the other way. I think I spoke to Councillor Young about it at the time, and he said there was a reason why it couldn't be done, but we couldn't remember what it was. I was just out of interest while you heard what it, do you know off the top of your head why it wouldn't?
I know they won't do it,
Yeah.
that's all.
There was a reason years ago and I can't remember.
No, I can't.
And all they do is they have an informal with the school. At the school opening and closing time, they do an informal one-way system, don't they? That they come round off Thornbrook Road bound to pick the children up or whatever to try and alleviate the problem.
Well, like I say, it's informal, and all it takes is one person not realising at 9 o'clock then. Or help one help.
Okay, Councillor Davis.
Yeah, just an issue. Well, at the last meeting we had a couple of ladies from Whitehall who came here, and we'd had rain of biblical proportions. You know, it was unprecedented, and it wasn't just the Whaley Bridge issue then, it was after that where the rains came again. The people down there were up to, and I happened to, my car just stopped in time, up to about 3 to 4 foot of water at the bottom. There was conversations here about the county council had been down there, this and this and this, but the bottom line was you could see the people down there swamped in, 3 foot of water, it not going anywhere and actually not getting to the drains.
Yeah, we've got some very good photos.
No, I don't know. Sorry, and as I say, if it has been dealt with, but I travel it daily and I've not seen it.
What we'd like to do is facilitate a meeting between yourself and the residents, if that's acceptable to you.
Yeah. One of the problems that there is that the people that are building houses on that estate level the ground out on 2 houses, and instead of the water going down the tram roads, it's coming in that way at the bottom, and that's what's causing the problem. High Peak Borough are perfectly aware of the situation, so is the road people at Derbyshire County Council.
Thank you.
And the backfilling on that temporary, today, they were backfilling all the areas they dug out on the approach road to the estate, and they had traffic lights there, as you know.
Yeah, I mean, I've been sending pictures of the work that's being done to the ladies. I copied the sewer parking as well. I've had a long conversation with the men. They are adamant that this will fix it. And the way we're talking, I believe them, but I did ask the ladies if they would go and have a chat with them to make sure they know all the things. But this drain is massive, you know what I mean? I think you could. I think you could probably drain the Atlantic with the size of it, wouldn't it?
Right. Councillor Young, do you want to add anything from the Borough Council
Not
perspective?
unless anybody's got any questions for taking back, because we haven't had a full meeting yet.
Just another subject, well, a well-known subject, roadway verge mowing. I bring this up every year because if you drive into Derbyshire Dales, theirs are far superior to ours. Most of them are cut twice. Now I want to know whether the County Council favour them or whether whoever they're contracting to does it. I mean, a lot of people have commented, particularly this year's, are ours. You only just need to go over the border, total mess.
High Peak Borough are paid
to
cut the grass verges.
Yes.
And they cut them once.
So are you telling me then that Derbyshire County Council allocate more money to Derbyshire Dales?
No.
So how do they manage to do them twice?
I don't know.
Well, that's what I want to find out.
Could you find that out for us, Councillor Perkins? Because
it's
seems
every
like
year.
they're
Every
making
year.
I can ask the question, no problem at all.
Yeah.
Derbyshire Dales cut their own.
Well, does that mean then, it must mean then that Derbyshire Dales are allocating more time, i.e. money, to it than High Peak does?
Correct.
Yeah.
Is it correct?
I will find out and double check.
Because it's
I
hard
would
to
say
say.
it would be,
You
but
drive around Bakewell and it actually looks like a tourist town. You drive around here and it's a mess.
it is.
Nothing
Right,
personal.
No, I don't cut the grass.
Not a shame, I'll tell you do it properly.
Although Paddy Van will say I do.
Right, okay, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
that, Councillor Perkins. Right, moving on to item 7, DCC Depot.
Good night, councillors.
Thank you. Yeah, appropriately.
When you the door open, it's a bit hot in here.
Yeah,
That's all right.
yeah. Right, the next item is DCC Depot at Barton Clough. I think it's quite a mess, and I think a lot of it is maybe Network Rail stuff that's been taken off the railway. Did you want to speak to
No,
that?
I brought it up before,
Yeah.
because it's actually owned by Derbyshire County Council, so, I mean, they're the ones who should be tidying it up.
Right.
If it's Network Rail, and I do know, personally, that Network Rail pay quite hefty amounts to access the railway and to dump stuff. And so they're probably paying Derbyshire Council a lot of money. And it's dreadful as you drive down there. As is the roundabout at Barnes Clough as well, it was chopped down.
Yeah.
I mean, something, if it's going to be left like that, I mean, somebody this last week suggested, why isn't it, properly landscaped? It never has been. Pity that Councillor Perkins has just gone.
Yeah, it is actually. Well, we'll follow that up.
Well, we've complained about that before, haven't we?
Yeah.
Well, the council yard, did we not write to DCC about it?
Yeah.
And have we not had a response? Remind them that we've written.
Yeah. Councillor Harris.
Yeah, I mean, I've raised twice now. Somebody has painted over the signs
Oh, in Dove
in the village of Dove Holes, and are the county going to do nothing about it?
Well, we'll follow that up as well with.
We have not heard from them.
No.
It now says Dove.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
No.
might be amusing
Well, it wasn't. It
to one or two people who I can think of who live in Dove. But
It probably wasn't until they sobered up.
And I think the one that says Lesser Chapel has been removed from Mayfield
I
Road.
think it's actually just collapsed. I can
No,
see it.
it's been
Has it been removed?
And the next one is temporary safety fencing on land of Sheffield Road. Currently, the wall by the end of the culvert has collapsed, and it's the responsibility of Natural Stone, and they promised to rebuild it. But at the moment, it's a danger to people if they went in, they'd probably get washed away. Councillor Gourlay.
While we're on item 7, Mr. Huskisson, who's visited us twice from Southhead Drive, he wrote to me this week concerning the path from Southhead Drive to Morrison's, which has become overgrown. I wonder whether we could give the borough or whoever is, or Barrett or whoever.
We've also had a complaint about some very large trees which seem to be overgrown as well on that path. So is that still a responsibility?
I think it's still in dispute.
I think it's in dispute, which is why it's a problem.
I know that Mr. Huskisson and his neighbours have taken a great deal of care over the green areas of Southhead Drive. They seem to be getting increasingly patient that nothing is happening from Highgate Borough Council.
Well, it's not happened for 10 years, so they just have to be more patient. But barracks just aren't moving, and High Peak they've tried for 10 years. Councillor Radson.
Chair, I think it was 2 meetings ago I brought this to the attention of the council that a neighbour of Mr. Hesketh had actually spoken to Morrison's and asked them to have some trees trimmed back. The time you asked Sue to write to Morrison's, Have we had any feedback from that?
Well, I spoke to a resident who said that she'd gone in and complained, and Morrison said that the trees that there's concern about are outside their boundary. So
The hedge on the path has been cut in the last week.
Right, so whose boundary, whose land is it that we need to?
Barrett's.
And this
Unfortunately, it's part of the dispute. Yeah, down to the Borough Council. Councillor Sizeland.
I'm just confused with this about the safety fencing off Sheffield Road. That natural stone and it's not their land.
It is. It is. It's actually off the road.
The next to Halls High.
I think it's the other side of the brook from Halls High, but they've taken responsibility for it. So.
Right, but it's definitely not their land, I know that.
Well,
Yeah.
well they've said it's their land and they've got responsibility for it. Any other matters for item 7?
Is this? Okay.
Yeah.
Is this where the camera on the Kings comes up? Or,
Well, you can do, yeah. You can
is any news on that?
Any progress do you know about it?
Because they said every
Every
meeting.
camera on the King's Arms.
Yeah. It's every meeting, isn't it?
We've got some in this room that can go on.
No, the situation is, I emailed Mike Towers, if you remember, Mike was making reference to it. He sent me a very quick response. He said he's not dealing with it direct, and he named the individual. I haven't got it to hand, but he said that that person was now progressing getting that camera back on. Okay, that was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I will keep an eye on it. I will send to Sue the actual name of the guy that is named as the person responsible. But there's a definite individual who's got responsibility for it and to get it back on. So that's just sort of place I can give a check.
So this looks like it's going to be in hand. So
well, I'll keep on track on it.
Right. So next item is 8.2, which is minutes of full council.
On the Sundays, can I just ask when minutes are ratified?
Yes.
Now, so if we say they're received, does that mean as a council we're receiving everything that's in those minutes?
Yeah, and they're subject to any matters arising later. Yeah. So
they're wrong.
yeah, they're wrong, and we update.
No, so but
Yeah,
committees are supposed to report back to council, and we then as a council ratify them. Either we agree or we don't. And we can then discuss it.
Yeah.
So we do it now at this point, not when, because what we're saying then is we agree to everything that's been said and done.
Yeah, subject to any matters of correction.
Right, okay. I mean, I think it just tends to go from and not really, because a lot of things, it might be committees a smaller part of this council, but other councils might disagree. Okay?
Yes. Right, okay. So, and then we've got the planning committee on the 20th of August, communication committee on...
Communications committee.
Sorry?
Yeah, I want to bring a point on the communications committee.
Yes.
About co-option of members. Now, I know we're entitled to co-op members.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter to me necessarily who it is, but I do think we ought to know a bit about somebody who is being co-opted onto a committee. So it could be anybody.
Yeah.
It could be Donald Trump, for all we know.
So you're asking for co-options to be approved by the full council?
I'm asking for co-options to be, or it could be your best friend, or somebody who's hand in the pocket, or anything.
Who's been co-opted?
Sandra Higgins.
We're talking about here, we get lots of comments about transparency and everything. You could co-op, we could co-op, my next door neighbour, my cousin, my brother.
Yeah, Councillor Gordon.
There is a difference between co-opting someone onto a committee and that's that they don't get a vote.
Beg your pardon, they do get a vote on anything but apart from money.
Yeah.
Finance.
Yeah.
So they do. So they can influence it an awful lot.
You just say we're about to write some terms of reference for this committee, so that's something to look at.
So we can build into the terms of reference for all committees that any co-options that take place are approved by the full council in advance, including the ones that are actually going through the process.
I think, seriously, I think it should be, and that we've no idea who anybody is.
Yeah.
All it is, it's a name
Yeah.
on there.
Right, okay, yep, take that on board.
I support Hilary. I'm just reflecting now, Hilary, on the liaison group and the wish to have a liaison group for members of the community. And she's absolutely right,
Yeah.
because those individuals will then be sitting with me, potentially sitting with Assistant Commissioner or perhaps someone else.
Yeah.
And those individuals need to whether you use the word vetted or whether it is the agreement of the family that you are aware who they are, whether it be brother, sister, uncle or whatever, but they are appropriate to that particular committee that they're serving on. I agree with you. I've not even thought about that.
And we'll put it into terms of reference. Yeah. Okay. Committee on the 19th of August, health safety on the 20th. So it's to consider any matters arising from those. Minutes of full council, page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6.
Yeah, I've got something on page 5
Right, okay.
about the all-weather pitch and PFI contract. Derbyshire County Council has come back to say they're obtaining that information from Interstate.
All back.
The maintenance.
Oh, right, yeah, oh, fabulous, yeah, absolutely.
Right, page,
On page 5, just want to see if we've got any updates on the councillors' email addresses.
I was just waiting to see if the co-options they can do it all at once.
Yeah.
if that's okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We'll offer it to anybody that's co-opted as well.
Okay.
Page 6.
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah.
The solar lights, did we get anywhere?
I don't know, solar light.
It's all the equipment's there. It's just waiting. I'll be closer. One of the workers had a vasectomy last week, so it's a bit difficult to go in. I think so. So we're getting there.
Can I just say, we have seen all the insurance stuff now, haven't we?
Yes, you are. Yes.
That's what I was getting
Yeah,
for.
I've seen it all.
Yeah, right. So it's progressing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, page
See
7.
which comes first, the lights and the traffic.
Page 8. And page 9. So, next one's planning committee. Would you like to just run through any headlines on that, Councillor Manager?
Yeah, preliminary powers, 2155, and we've got any remarks to make about that, Randy?
Just to say, Chairman, on that one, 343, the Benchmark Avenue one, it has been called in by Councillor Site and myself, so it's all been registered, so hopefully it will come up
Very good.
on our side as and when.
Right, thanks for that. Right, thank you. Are you okay? Right, communications committee, Lucas, can you
So we have, so as we discussed at the last full meeting, and orders were taken for the night one, so Paul, do you know if that's been gifted to you?
No, it's me.
So the welcome pack, I don't think there's a huge amount of things from what we last discovered. I think now we're pretty certain it should be eligible for the 50% regeneration grant, and we are still hoping that advertising will offset the costs, so hopefully that will not be costing, will be costing. So, the town treasurer, do you have any copies of that? I didn't bring any. Did you bring any copies?
Jockey's got one here.
Did you pass it around, Jason? So this is the, well, I want you to look at it. I've seen it. So yeah, this is the fruits of the labour of the committee, which we are hoping to send tourist information points throughout the local area to hopefully attract some more visitors into Chapel. The council now has access to public sector mapping, which is free. Obviously, Mrs. Higgins was co-opted on, but that's just been discussed. The newsletter, so I think the thing to comment here is we took on board comments, I think, Councillor Barn at the last meeting about trying to source local suppliers. I'm not sure where we are with that at the moment.
Yeah, we've got quotes.
We've got quotes.
2 local suppliers.
2 local quotes. Is it something we discuss at the next meeting?
It's on the agenda tomorrow.
Yeah. So yeah, that's going to be factored in. Obviously, we have to balance in supporting local business with overall cost as well. Press release. Yeah, we as discussed at the last full council meeting, we wrote up a press release thanking everyone who helped out with the Whaley Bridge emergency. I believe that got onto page 2 of book 7.
It did.
Yes.
I saw it.
And yeah.
Chairman, right, so the question, what are we saying? Because if we're not, if we're saying about it, you know, in terms of transparency, bearing in mind what the co-optees onto the council are going through, I don't think it's correct that we should be co-opting somebody who we don't know anything about, never mind their expertise that might add to the work of the committee. Now, we're saying, you just said that we're not co-opting until we've had these...
we'll put them on the terms of reference. We're currently writing the terms of reference for the communications committee, so that will go on, and then we'll look at maybe some form of co-option process.
So this co-option isn't a co-option then?
No, it'll have to wait until we've gone through due process.
I mean, we did go through a sort of co-option process ourselves as a council, which we believe we were following as we had been given instructions.
It's not.
As a committee?
Yeah.
And where was the transparency in that, as we've just been so...
I think,
There's only 3 people there.
Yeah, we'll do.
There were members of the public there.
Yeah, there's a public meeting.
Yeah, there's public there.
It wasn't on the agenda.
No, so we'll deal with it. Councillor Dale,
I'm just toying with the progress of the liaison group and listening to what you're saying on the transparency. I'm going to hold back with that because there was a little bit of momentum there with a few individuals that I earmarked through the Neighbourhood Watch that I would like to progress, but I think it's more right at the moment that I wait.
Well, we can
there's no reason why we can't.
We can bring them to the council, put the council to meet everybody.
Yes.
You know, and then everyone gets to know who's who.
Yeah.
There's no problem there.
But yours is a working group where there's slightly different rules.
Right.
But I think we need to do.
I still think
I think we need to
keep it as a generic.
I think we need to.
No, I don't dispute that at all. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Okay. Amenities committee is the next one. Does any member want to speak, or just go through the minutes? Exercise.
There's only one point. It was just right at the end. It was just right at the end.
The amenities.
Of the amenities, we did sort of say that. I think we've agreed that the meeting will start after 5 PM to make sure every member can be there. And I think I'm right about that, aren't I? Yes, so I just did it to be noted somewhere because that was quite important.
Right, okay, Councillor Young and Councillor Ben.
I have a query on this one on the Memorial Park about the centenary being July 2020.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it is, because...
Well, that's when the programme says it is.
We had a phone call today from a local resident.
Yes, well, I've had on that one as well, but there's a map that shows 2021, the allotments were still there then.
If you'd like to just go and see Emma, she'll show you what we've got.
Well, that was one part of it. I wanted to check the date was right. Also, whilst being busy this weekend with the fundraiser at the New Inn, Oliver Stevenson was there, and they are willing to do plaque, whatever you want, in stone or whatever, to put in the flower beds or in the wall or whatever, however you come around, because you were discussing how to mark it, weren't you?
Put it on the next agenda.
So
Yeah,
I'd like to put that on,
agenda, yeah,
but
there's-
they are willing, the stone, like you're talking about local people, they are willing to do it. If
And
you come on with-
donate.
And donate it,
Right,
yes.
okay, I think it's a very generous offer from
It's
us.
a very genuine offer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And I'm
Councillor
sure we
Barron.
shall accept it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about the last next to the last line of 2145. It looks as if the park keeper has a place to go to sleep. That's not true. It says the park ranger.
No.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Typo.
Yeah, Councillor Barron.
Yeah, I just would like to bring it up that we were discussing with the Parish manager, and I wonder if we could find out what kind of funds we have, one, for the new lawnmower that he's requiring, or a Trimax fitting to go on to the one he has. And I would like to bring up as well, staff, that, can we have a look at how we go about getting some staff for the man? Because he needs help, the manager.
I think that's a matter for another committee.
Yeah, I do as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right, okay, thank you for that. Next item's
Chair.
Sorry.
Chair, could I just go back to the three quotations? I've had a walk around the park with Phil, as requested by the committee, and quite simply, the quotes that have been received, they're not actually what we need.
Well, I think
so we've actually...
They're not all done on the same basis, and therefore
and
we've asked that that be done.
Well, we've actually walked down the path today, Chair, and measured up.
Well, you can do a specification based on those
there will be a
measurements.
specification following today's meeting with Phil, yeah.
Right, okay.
That's what the committee asked you to do, isn't it?
Yeah, no, very good, thank you for
And
that.
report back to the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
There's one other, Chair. On the minutes, there's no mention of the burial.
The burial of what?
Of the ashes in the sandpit.
And the cherry tree, under the cherry tree.
I didn't.
Because he was going,
Yeah, I thought we were destined on removing the tree. And I can't remember whose ashes they are, but apparently some lady came along to the last park keeper who's now left us and wanted her husband's ashes buried in the middle of what used to be the old sandpit, and to plant a tree on it. Now, I did suggest that the tree, if it's going to be planted anywhere, shouldn't be planted there. It should be planted in the corner. The council did agree some years ago to somebody who committed suicide. His family wanted a tree planted in the park, and we did agree to that. And it's down by the bowling green, actually. It's down by the front entrance, to the right of the front entrance. And it's in a place which doesn't inconvenience anybody, whereas the park keeper's intention in relation to the sandpit is so much better that I thought, it's whether you minute something like that or whether the tree is moved and placed in another place in the park, and we get on with what we want to do and which is authorised.
If it's there without authority,
Yeah.
and the
It's
ashes
there without the committee's authority, and the park keeper, I think, was so bemused by this tree arriving together with
if the ashes are there without authority, then they should be moved.
He just bummed it in an area of the park which, frankly, ought to be put to better use. I think that's summing it up, isn't it? But I think I would rather, if you don't mind, I think the easiest thing to do, because we don't want to offend anybody, is to move the darn thing and bury the ashes.
Well, the ashes are scattered. The ashes are scattered.
Scattered all over the sand.
No, Chair, the hole was dug.
Yeah.
The ashes were tipped into the hole, they weren't scattered. Some of them blew across everybody, but then the tree was planted on top.
Well, I think...
But I find it unusual.
I think if we quietly remove the tree and put it, nonetheless, leave the notice on it that I don't think there is one, is there?
No, there isn't.
It's a cherry tree from memory, or similar,
Well, I think the tree should be moved and the ashes
Moved
should be
to
dug up.
an appropriate corner
stuck
where
in the
we
hole
believe
before the tree goes.
it's not affecting anybody. And if the lady comes out of the blue and looks for it, then the park keeper's authorised to show where it is.
Right, well, because she hasn't got the authority to find Councillor
It was brought up in that meeting that we would move said ashes entry over to the corner where some other ashes had been displaced over by the bowling green.
Oh, no, that's peculiarly for the bowling green.
Yeah, but there was sort of a push on that now. I mean, Parkkeeper now, he only had been told about that and what the agreement was with the old Parkkeeper.
Yeah, I think I ought to report to the council really as a bowler rather than the chairman of the Amenities Committee, because I wasn't on the Amenities Committee at the time. But there is actually an area created by the men's toilet on the bowling, on the side of the bowling area. There is an area next to the men's toilet which is used as a commemorative area for old bowlers, if I can put it that way. And there's a few old bowlers being planted there. And resting quietly. But there are no names attached. It's just a place where the widows of those bowlers have put their husbands' ashes.
Well, I thought too
It's
much
not in anybody's way. It's not interfering with the bowling green or anything else. It's on a raised area. And
right,
somebody said, well, has that been approved? And I suppose the correct answer to that is no.
I mean, the minutes really can purpose the decisions the council makes.
Yeah, right, so, okay, I think we've exhausted that one. Next one is the Health and Safety Committee. On page 2 there's some actions agreed. The main one was to get a copy of GCC Library's fire risk assessment, which we've got, and the other ones are just sort of housekeeping items we can take on board. Councillor Gourlay.
We did have a short discussion about the number of children that are actually playing in a couple of our parks. So in Coombs Park, Sparrow, I think there are different problems with each. One which is that at the Coombs play park, the school next door doesn't appear to be using the play park, whereas in Sparrow Pit, I think just due to demographic changes, that there aren't that many children in Sparrow Pit.
Can I say, as a person who's I'm declaring an interest now because I've actually used it today with my grandson. I do on a regular basis. It's absolutely irrelevant how many families with small children there are. It is mainly grandparents who take out small children. I can see that play area from my house, and I can assure you it is well used by a lot of people. We're talking about visitors. A lot of visitors come there. There's a good car park which has nothing to do with the play area. People park there and use the play area. As a grandparent, I use several play areas in here and in Derbyshire Dales. You meet friends there. It's nothing to do with how many children there are in the village. But incidentally, for your information, there's been another one born last night. Well, I declare an interest in that one, but that's one more.
Right.
It is nonsense, and if you're going to count up the ridiculous idea that we should be calculating how many children live somewhere around a play area. Let's do it for meetings. Let's do it for Chapel Park.
Well, we provide parks for young children right across the parish, and I think that's the right thing to do.
Right, too. But can I comment, by the way? I've heard this evening a former councillor, Evanson, has been painting the inside of the school. As you know, it's leased from the Methodists, but belongs to the village hall. And so the village hall, of which I'm a trustee, in fact, so I declare my interest if you want me to, is responsible for its upkeep. And the village hall has arranged for all those things to be dealt with. And he himself has painted apparently the whole of the inside of the church, which is actually used as a school. The church don't have a lease on that. They have a license from the village hall. In relation to the village hall itself, they have a lease. And because they use the village hall as sort of the second
Right, Councillor Evans.
area. And then we've got a third one there, which is the rotunda. And we have other interests other than children in the Coombs play area. The ladies of the village have donated a steel table tennis table, which the equipment for which is kept by the village hall people. So,
Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to next item in terms of reference for the planning committee and the means committee here for final application. They've been through due process, so yeah, so can we ratify those please? Yes? Yep. All in favour? Yep. Right, okay, thank you. Over the page on to neighbourhood planning community planning, nothing to report of everything. Economic regeneration, nothing to report. Honorary Freeman, you've got a paper in your pack at the last meeting of the committee that considered that. The Honorary Townsman Working Group held on the 25th of November 2014. At the moment, the minutes of that meeting only apply, say that these awards only apply to any member of the council. So it's actually serving members of the council. So people that have resigned or moved on, I don't think qualify. It's a case of whether you want to have a new meeting of that working group. Also, some of the councillors on it have moved on. Whether we reinstate it to reconsider it or not. So I'll take your views on it. Councillor Sizen.
I haven't got a thing in front of me, but
I said Councillor Sizen, so just wait.
It's just a matter of interest. I'm confused. It says we couldn't, local councils could only make them from January 2010. I'm sure there's some older ones we've got.
There are.
Well, according to
There's
this,
two separate boards in there.
Well, no, according to this, it says we chose for January 2010.
Cool.
Look, item 5.
Where are we?
Just the
You're looking at the wrong.
the legal.
The legal note from Dow.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the minutes of the last working group.
The working group that decided, I sat on, decided.
See, Chairman, there are two ways of looking at this. I think when that group met, I mean, I wasn't on it, and I can't recall it ever meeting, but it obviously did, and it obviously determined it in this way. But the intention was to clear up the fact that the Honorary Freeman is an award for councillors or previous councillors who have given good service. And the other awards which we have, which are subject to scrutiny by an little awards committee, which then reports to the council, are to present someone with and we've presented, I would think, 20 over the years of those, to people who aren't members of the council.
Well, this Townsman's Working Group, I think it says that they only apply to serving councillors, not councillors that may have resigned or retired from the council service. So.
It doesn't say that, does it?
It does.
It says those who have served the council well, as far as I can remember.
No, it doesn't.
No. Yeah, it was it there. Members agree that it should be only bestowed on members of the council.
If you want to clarify that by taking it back, then I think that
it's a case of whether there's a view that you should have another working group, just to look at that, whether it's serving members or those that past members.
to be truthful at the time, there was some concern that at least one member of the council who has since died would not achieve 25 years.
Well, I think that's not
relevant. I think that was the reason
we need
for
to
the
know
group
whether we're
meeting.
doing councillor size and
Well, basically, the law doesn't say it has to be only councillors. It says anyone who's rendered eminent services to the area that the council was in,
And I think
which is members of the public, anyone, and I could name a lot of them myself.
No, that's the point. It doesn't say that. It says
our rules might do at the moment, but the law says differently. It says differently.
I think when the working group met, they understood that, but the decision was then.
That was what the decision was at the time,
But it
which
could
is
change.
in fact, and that, because I sat on it, that was the decision at the time, because yes, there have been comments about people, whether they would make 25 years service because of their age and things like that, and also it ratified as well, or clarified, that there was the one for the people of the town, which is the community group awards.
Yeah.
So there were two separate items.
Yeah. So I think, yeah.
So if you want to revisit it,
If anybody, I don't think there's a feeling to revisit it, so leave it as it is.
well, the thing is whether or not, because I put it forward, haven't I, that I was considering that we should look at Councillor Mike Smith, who's resigned, whether he should be given an honorary freedom as such. Now, you're saying by the rules, the way they are at the moment, we can't because he's not a sitting councillor.
Yeah.
These are council's rules. But
These council's rules,
But not
the league.
I think it should be opened up to what the law says, you know, that it can be any person, the public. There's loads of them, people in Chapel Lily do fantastic things. I wouldn't even like to start naming them.
Yeah,
you know.
We've got about 20 of those awards in the community.
Yeah, but what I mean, they should be considered for free men and free women as well.
Well, it's a bit like the old alderman system. When councillors had served in many, many years of service, they were actually promoted, if you like, within the council to the position of alderman. And that went out with a revision of local government in 1974. And since then, the former chief executive, like Pete, drew up the rules for our honorary freemen.
Yeah, can you find it out, because time's getting on, please, Peter. So I get, yeah.
Can I take your point and just ask about if we have a vote on what you just suggested there, will we leave it in fair play, or?
Would you like to propose that these rules are revisited and in accordance with the legal aspects as well? Or
I would like to propose that.
Right, so I've got proposer and seconder, so
who seconded it?
Councillor Ortley. So all those in favour? Right. So yeah, if it's carried, yes, carried.
So do you want to do it as the full, all of you, or do you want to set up a working group, or how would you like to do it?
Can I propose that we do it as a full council?
Right, okay,
It's got to be done.
Right, thank you for that. Next one is future of King's Arms Public Health. Councillor Gawley asked for this item to go on.
I just really wanted to quickly raise it that the King's Arms is in the process of being sold. That it's one of the four sides of the marketplace, and we really should, note it, decide whether we want to do anything about it, and make a positive decision if we're not going to do anything about it.
Well, I understand that somebody with previous pub trades made quite a reasonable offer on the place, so it's a case for the owner to decide whether he wants to take that offer. But those people are local people that have got licensed trade experience, and they've got an idea of what they would do with the premises. So I think that offer would preclude any action by the parish council. So,
I was just going to say, Chair, I have heard that it's actually going up for public auction on Thursday.
Yeah, so possibly, hopefully those people might bid for it. Councillor Ansel.
I was just, no, sorry Chair, when you mentioned that you heard that somebody was hoping to buy it, maybe that they'd be keen on putting CCTV up.
Yeah, I think it'll be up before they get there. Right, okay. I think it's got a very low guide price as well.
200.
200?
200,000 guide price at the auction.
Chair, just on this, actually, I quite agree with Councillor Nigel. In as much as that, I think there are certain buildings around the parish that that probably do need to be looked after. And as the town develops, do we have a plan?
It can be listed by Highgate Borough Council as community assets, that's the way to go.
Is that the way to go?
Yeah, yeah, and also getting into conservation areas as well if you can. Councillor Gordon.
I do think that we should start putting together a list of the buildings of what was it, community value, which gives a sort of 6-month pause before those buildings can be sold. But the problem with that is anyone going to make a community bid even if there's 6 months to wait? Because at the moment I don't think this parish council is particularly in the mood for stepping into the property market in Chapel Inn.
Well, there's the amount of hoops to get a capital financing, the amount of hoops we have to jump through, we would have missed any auction of any property. So it's, if you look at Whaley Bridge, you've got some major community assets there, like the Jodrell Arms by the station, which has been derelict for 8-9 years. And there's 2 or 3 others in Whaley Bridge where clearly the town council, perhaps a more thriving town centre than Chapel at the moment. And yeah, there's empty buildings there. There's the post office, which has become empty 6 months ago. That's just as it was, no movement at all. So yes, I think all councils, because of the way that we have to get capital finance, can't really enter that market as such. Right, so yeah. Outside bodies, any reports? No. Town Hall, 4749 Market Street. We do need some. Sorry.
We were going to have a meeting and we did not update.
Yeah, we'll be having a town hall committee shortly, very shortly, probably in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
We do need to replace the office computer. The software we're using is not going to be maintained by Microsoft from December, is it? January. So it's like XP over again. So we need to update the computer and run Windows 10 on it. We also think we may have been hacked as well. So we'll be looking at the firewall and all the other antivirus stuff. So yeah, we'll be actually looking to make it as unhackable as possible.
Is that what this vote's for, then,
Well, yeah. Councillor Gawler.
Have you contacted the police?
What we did was we contacted our service supplier to look for malicious software on the machine, and what had been on there had been taken off. They couldn't find it. So there was no evidence at all of it being in there, but it was seen. And it was an add-on where the sort that hackers would actually go through.
It's just in light of having email addresses, I think it is important that we do have high quality software, because there's going to be a lot more personal data, and doesn't have the sort of security that Google and stuff has.
We were talking about antivirus today, and we'll be looking at specifying a firewall and antivirus, which is state of the art. Councillor Seisman.
This is a quote for a computer. Okay, there'll be some software with it, but you won't get things like Windows 10 and that. There is the higher version of Office 365 includes automatic updates and everything. You just get a complete suite. It's something like, off the top of my head, it might be something like £10 it might be something like £12 a month or something like that. It's somewhere in that neck of the woods. But then it updates itself continually, and you get the actual emails. Obviously the staff need something like an Office 365 email. But you know, to me, I'm just saying, because we talk about the software, but is the computer okay?
No.
So
the computer's very old. And
so this is the first thing to get the computer.
In January, and we would go to Office 365.
Oh, in the office.
Yeah.
I don't know if I might be overboard. As we look at cameras, about the place. I just wanted to bring it up. Would there be a way that the council could look into actually kitting the place out with cameras?
Well, I'll raise that as
Right.
any other business.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've got one, yeah.
Chairman, just on, we've not talked about council, well, we have talked about council email addresses in the past, but what are you saying from the incident that happened on your computer then? It would be safer for all of us to have a dedicated email address.
I think so, I think so.
That's the advice.
Yes, and
The borough and that's the way I want to go, Chair.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Or it can be a Gmail address, it
well,
doesn't
if
have to
you,
be on
if
his
you look at
365.
Councillor Perkins, he's got a DCC email and a High Peak Borough Councillor, so he keeps his council business completely separate from his personal life.
That's what I've been advised.
And Councillor Young's been advised to do that from High Peak Borough Council as well, so I think it's the way to go.
I have missed a couple of things through it mixing in with my with the personal stuff, and it's just unmanageable. So I'm very keen
from the GDPR on your personal information as well. If there's any investigation into any aspect of council work, parish council work, and the people want to look at your email address, they can look at your parish council one, not your personal one. Councillor Gourlay.
Since we're revisiting this, I have had many emails complaining about the amount that will be spent on these email addresses.
Yeah, but your estimate of the cost was completely fatuous.
Yeah.
But you are talking about every councillor getting one now.
Well, not necessarily, but my view is that High Peak equip all their councillors with an email address, DCC do, why shouldn't we? For the volume of be as part of the job. Most people here forego the £120 a year that they can claim, so what's wrong with it? We've already decided, and if at the moment I think there were four or five councillors have gone for it, there might be a few more, but I still think it's money well spent to protect the parish council and protect the councillors as councillors, not necessarily as individuals.
So maybe Councillor Gurley, when he's answering these emails, would be able to tell them that none of us, there aren't any expenses of being a parish councillor. We all use our own time, our own petrol. Everything we do costs the council nothing. And for the security of everybody, ourselves and the council, it's a very small thing to pay.
Yes, it's small. Yes.
I did make that point in the July newsletter.
Can I just make a point, with regards to the point Councillor Battery made earlier, about if it's more secure. My original point was that with the council email addresses, you need to have, it's only as secure as the sort of antivirus and the firewalls you've got there. So, if you don't spend enough money on it, then it's probably less secure. If you spend enough money on it and have it up on...
No, we'll be looking from any access for those emails through our firewall. We'll be looking for extra security on it. If that's the way council's going into our system, that's the way hackers will go in.
That's very sure.
So we'll be making sure, Councillor Young, make sure.
Just one other thing to say as well, with the borough side of things, they are just converting us from tablets to iPads. Every councillor's getting supplied with, that's part of it. Your job and that's got the, I think Kath's already got it.
So I think that's a little,
She initiated that old one.
Yeah. So for 36 councillors with tablets and email addresses, how much is that costing? Councillor Gourlay.
If this council goes down the route of buying councillors' tablets, I can imagine an absolute stink.
I'm not suggesting
it's not, that's never been suggested. All that I've suggested in the past is that we have dedicated parish council email addresses and nothing else. Everybody here provides their own PC. They pay for all their antivirus and everything on their PC, and it's free. It's free for the council business that they do on them. So that can be
Did we okay the computers, by the way?
Yes.
Right, well done.
Well, we've got to do it because it's not going to be
fine.
It's not going to be maintained, and there won't be any patches for the future. Parks and open spaces.
I don't think there's any other comments to make.
Allotment sites. There's a report in your pack on a meeting we had at the courses, which I thought a very good meeting once it got going, and we did discuss with the allotment society certain things that apparently we the parish council's liability in terms of a stone wall and a couple of large trees that need looking at, and also some younger trees, maybe 10 years old, that we might be asking the park keeper to.
I've looked at the agreement we've got with when it was Frodo there, and the rebuilding of the stone boundary wall is our responsibility.
So we'll be doing that.
And there's certainly a large tree that does need some work done to it, and it will again be our responsibility, and it's not got a TPA on it.
Right, oh, well done. And we'll also look into the issue about water supply with Network Rail as best we can.
It comes from the Carradale Tunnel.
Yes. Council size and Council Galway.
Oh, it's just on this report, I'm just a bit confused because I did ask the assistant clerk and she didn't know the answer to this. It says that the Allotments Committee advised that at that day they'd be able to fulfil the current waiting list, but it didn't say how many on the waiting list, you know.
Well, the waiting list changes all the time. At the time of that meeting, there were arrangements whereby the next growing season all the waiting list would be fulfilled. I think there's further allotments coming up at Dove Holes for people who haven't cultivated them. So at the moment we've got a surplus of allotment.
Right. What I'm saying is from the other one, he said there was various people about to apply.
Well,
did it? And maybe there's up to 15. So how many did the allotments know about at that time?
Well, they told us they had a waiting list and that they're dealing with it. So.
Well, they didn't say how big the waiting list was.
No, but it wasn't. I don't think it was anything like 15 by the discussion we had.
Given that there is a demand for allotment spaces, we have another allotment. We have the Lays allotment.
Well, we've got an excess of allotment plots at the moment, so there's no, whatever demand there is can be satisfied quite easily.
I certainly know that there is someone in Chapel East who wants an allotment. So is there any process for him to get an allotment at the Lays?
No, we've offered him an allotment in Dove Holes.
I know people who've been on the waiting list for years and not heard a sausage. You know, I don't quite understand it. Because I know the secretary checked. I think some people may have fallen off the list.
Well, I think that's not factually correct from what I heard. Councillor had said.
Chair, do you actually think that it's right if a member of the Chapel Parish Council approaches you and asks for an allotment, that you say yes, you can have one at Devolves?
Yeah, a lot of people go there. People from
Somebody round the corner from me, Mulgreen Drive goes there.
Perhaps that person might not drive.
Councillor Gawley, well, Councillor
No, sorry, Councillor Gawley. No, Chair, you can't show that to me. Somebody who doesn't drive and he wants an allotment in Chapel, you don't just say you can go to Devolves.
No, did we offer an allotment at Dove Holes? We told him that they were available.
I don't know who we're talking about.
Who are we talking about?
Well, I'm just Councillor Gawley suggested that he knew somebody in East Ward that asked for an allotment. You suggested you'd offer him the opportunity to go to the Devolves.
Well, no, that's factually incorrect because we don't know who you're talking about. Somebody did approach us for an allotment who lived in Chapel East, and we said there were vacancies at Dove Holes.
It all goes through the
But
allotment
you know, this
association
is part
anyway.
for somebody to walk from Manchester Road, Chapel, down to our allotments behind Frodo that we've got some sort of yearly lease on, as it is to walk from where I live to the falls over the top. And I know people who go over there, they love it. Peaceful, it's a nice spot.
So there is definitely no process by which a person can get a Lays allotment.
I think
no, because we've closed the Lays.
It's closed, the water's coming off everything.
The point is, yeah, the Lays is closed, and what we've been told quite clearly is that the allotment site at the Lays is adequate for the number of people there. And you've either made an application or you've not. You can't be in the process of making, well, you can be in the process, but we can't officially know that.
No, it's a
So,
private
you know,
organisation.
we've got to accept what has been told us
Yeah.
by the allotment association who managed that site for us,
Yeah,
that the people who applied are accommodated.
yeah. Yeah, and will be by the next growing season. Councillor Gordley.
So we still have allotments. The Secretary of State did not remove allotment status from the entire Lays allotment.
Yeah,
He
because we asked him to for industrial development,
no,
in accordance with the
he
plan.
didn't.
Well, the borough did.
No, he removed, the Secretary of State removed allotment status from half the land. Half the land is still allotments. And what I've heard tonight is there is no way.
There's no demand. Well, I think once the
Well, I
demand
remember when one used to be used as a pig because there was no demand.
Yeah, there's no demand to reopen that section of the allotments.
Now that's definitely what the council has told the Secretary of State. But the council has also told the Secretary of State that the Lays allotments were promoted.
Is that? I don't know about that.
I mean, they've been on our website.
Can I ask what the point of what's going on here? Because I'm sitting here as a councillor now. No, please let me have a say. Because, you know, I'm sitting here, obviously not engaging in this, but listening to this tennis match going on. And I just want to know, what is the point of the challenges that's going on here? Are we saying that we are in some underhand way preventing people from going to the Lees allotments? If we are, then what is the proof of that? Because I'm not aware of it, but if that's the case, because I don't want to sit here and the good people listening to something that they're thinking, well, what is the point of councillors sitting round asking if we're not going to get anywhere? In my opinion. So anyway, I've had my say.
Yeah, Councillor Adson.
No, sorry, I'm going to bite Millet.
Right, Councillor Gawley.
Well, there are two ways that you can get an allotment in this town. If you want an allotment in Doveholes, you're directed towards the assistant clerk. And if you want an allotment in Chapel, you're directed towards the allotment society.
Yeah.
Now, the allotment society will not give anyone a Lays allotment because they are solely devoted to the courses allotments.
Yeah,
so there is no process.
Society.
There is no process to get a Lays allotment, and the application process to remove the allotment status. We put in an application form saying that there was no demand for the Lays allotments.
There isn't.
Where there was no process to get onto the waiting list.
There's no demand for it. There's surplus of allotments in the parish.
The Secretary of State, when he removed the allotment status, said that the reason he'd removed them was because the Lays allotments had been vacant and fallow since 2012. Now, many people sat around this table know that that is factually untrue.
Well, I don't know, but I can't tell you.
I've seen a letter from this council evicting the last Lays allotment holder, dated October 2017. Now, on the Secretary of State's letter, it is number one his reason why he's removed allotment status. That person's allotment lease, when he was sent the letter in October 2017, the letter stated that his lease would end in March 2018. But in fact, according to the law, he requires more than a year's notice.
It's not cultivated, it's
It
non-cultivated.
was on non-cultivation, and it was.
Here's
He
Councillor
never
Nick.
complained, he didn't, he never
He just
appealed.
walked away.
Can I give you?
Can we have one meeting, please? I agree with Tony. I cannot understand what's going on, and I don't know why it's going on.
Chair,
Councillor Dales wants to speak again.
I'm just waiting, as we should do, and then my right to speak. I'm just saying once again, what are we trying to achieve here? Because I've listened again. I am listening to everybody, so I don't have an interest in it as such. But I'm trying to get here exactly what we're getting at. Is it that we now need to open the lease allotments?
Yes.
Or is
no?
But we also
there's no demand for a plan.
Please, could I? Yeah. And we've got to open the lease allotments, but then I'm hearing on the left that we've got allotments available. So all I'm saying as a councillor is, what are we doing? What is it that we're trying to achieve? Because I'm none the wiser. We could be here through till 12 o'clock at night talking about the Secretary of State.
I think that's called argument, Councillor Dales.
No, I don't agree with you. I think it's a waste of time.
Well, but to be fair,
I think it's a waste of time.
They've been a waste of time. My point has been that how can we have sufficient allotments if we've got an allotment waiting list? So the chair of the Courses Allotment Society has told me lies.
No, I don't think.
Well, that's what you're saying to me.
No, I think there's a lot of misinformation going round about the courses allotments, and I think a lot of it is untruths and manipulations by others. And I was very impressed by the courses allotment and the way that they were being managed by the Allotment Society. I had a good chat with Eddie about his management of the waiting list, and he knows exactly what he's doing and how to get those allotments back into cultivation, ones that aren't being, or the people that are moving on. So I don't know who was first, I think you what.
I think
Paddy was first.
Can I ask you a question, Jason?
Certainly.
That person that you think has been telling you that, how many people has he actually told you that he has?
Well, he told me that he had 11 on a waiting list.
Who?
This is Mr. Mackenzie. And that there was, I had 4 others that wanted an allotment.
And has he got it down there?
No, but there's 11 on the waiting list. So that would make 15. So now I'm being told, so that I'm going to go back to these people and tell them that it's fine, you can have an allotment.
If you need to get in touch with the Courses Allotment Society, and then speak to private organisations, so they won't speak to Councillor Gordon.
So the second reason that the Secretary of State gave for closing the lease allotments was that the number of people on the waiting list has been taken into account. As the land is uncultivated and there's no one on the waiting list, the list is now closed. Of course, he didn't know that there was no way to get on the waiting list.
Well, it had been found that there was no waiting list, so because there were other allotments available in the parish.
If the Secretary of State had known that for several years, while growers continued to work the lease allotment, there was no obvious way to apply for a new plot, would he have removed protection from the site?
Probably. Well, we can, not going there.
So there's a third reason.
Right, well, give us a third reason and I'm moving on because it's now 10:15. And,
the third reason is that he states the council has actively and promoted and publicised the availability of sites on the allotment. Now, I issued a Freedom of Information request against this council, asking, in fact, in the application form, this council said how they promoted the allotment sites. They said through newsletters, posters and leaflets. In response to the request, the council said they haven't promoted the lease allotment sites for growing. They promoted them for sale. Now, if the Secretary of State had known that the way that this council has been promoting its allotments is for sale rather than growing, do you think that he would have removed the allotment status?
I've no idea because I wasn't councillor at the time, so I don't know what happened. So let's move on. Correspondence is the next item. High Keep polling district review is going to take place. Regeneration support grant. Yeah, there's a meeting on the 9th of October that I'll be going to with the clerk. We're going to put in bids for finance for 3G pitch at the school. We're going to look at CCTV and lighting in the park. And we're going to look at an outdoor gym in the park as well. It's a wish list, so if anybody's got any other ideas.
And we want to lighting.
I'm just finding the second building talking about.
Yeah.
But they've already started replacing the two DJs.
But the headmaster said he'd make available extra land for a 3G or 4G.
Oh, what grass?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So if you've got anything for the wish list, please let the clerk know.
Well, we have, Chairman, immediately, because we've had it on our bid to the lottery, and that is to put 12 proper lamps in the park.
Yeah, well, I just said that, with CCTV as well.
Yeah. This was all about CCTV.
Can I come back to the outside gym? I think it's a very good idea, but also I think we need to keep in mind that we do have 2 gyms within the thing, and that we're actually going to hurt local business planning and stuff.
Well,
quite
Sorry, what they're talking about is equipment.
Yeah,
The side of the walkway.
Yes,
a lot of public parks, they're simply, you don't pay for them, you just walk round and you can do it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have anything to do with the other places in the town at all.
And if we start having park runs, we had the family mile event, and it's the sort of thing you could do as part of
Things
park
at the
run
side that
or a
people can
family
use
mile.
to exercise.
It would be a fantastic thing in the park.
Yeah, so those are what we're going to do. If there's any other ideas, please pass them on to the clerk. There's DCC Parish and Town Council Liaison Forum, that's a questionnaire we'll be filling in. The Council for Protection of Rural England, they're doing a green plea, which is a litter pick in September. They're prepared to provide equipment, volunteers and publicity if anybody's interested in taking that forward, or yeah, the details are with you. And the family mile that was held in the park, we've been given thanks for providing the facilities. 21 Freedom of Information requests received in August 2019 been dealt with.
Hang on. I thought we were asking how much it was costing the council.
We're still working on that, what the cost of that. The cost of those 26.
I'd like to also ask, besides the cost, the time that it has taken.
It's time in terms of cost in terms of time.
Yeah, it's the direct cost and the opportunity cost that we'll be looking at. Got a schedule of accounts for payment, so that you all had a look at them. Yeah. Thank you. Press releases. No.
The allotment prizes?
Yeah, we'll do the allotment prizes, we'll put those on the website normally, so we will.
This very nice thing that was going round, that's put on a press release.
The town trail?
Yes, the very nice.
Yeah, that's not bad idea actually.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
Do that?
I'll do that.
So there's no matters for exclusion. So 10 to 10 nearly, I'll bring the meeting to a close. So thank you for your attendance.